Every city on this list was completely destroyed by war. Every single one became a global symbol of peace. This is not a coincidence. This is a pattern that has repeated across every generation of human history. And nobody has stopped to explain why. Until now. These cities were meant to disappear forever. Instead, the entire world visits them. Generation produces a city that gets completely destroyed. And somehow, every single time, that city becomes the place the world travels to remember why war must stop. Why does this keep happening? Hiroshima, erased in 1 second. Warsaw, dynamited building by building. Dresden, firebombed for 2 nights straight. Sarajevo, besieged for 425 days. Today, millions of people travel to every single one of them, not despite what happened there, because of what happened there. This is one of the most consistent patterns in human history, and almost nobody has stopped to ask why. Thanks, you're here, and so we do. Every city on today's list followed the same arc. First, catastrophic destruction. Not just damage, erasure. Then, a decision. In the rubble, survivors faced a choice. Remove all traces and rebuild as if it never happened. Or keep the wounds visible and build around them. Every city tonight chose the second option. And that single decision changed everything. Because here is the truth underneath all of this. Human beings are drawn to places where the worst things happened. Not out of morbidity, but because those places answer questions that comfortable, undamaged places never can. What does survival actually require? What do we owe the people who suffered before us? War zones that become peace cities are not tourist attractions. They are classrooms. And the lesson they teach cannot be taught anywhere else. August 6, 1945. 1 bomb, 1 second, 80,000 people gone. In 1949, the Japanese government passed the Peace Memorial City Construction Law, giving Hiroshima not just permission to rebuild but a purpose. The city would be rebuilt as a monument, a living argument, a warning. The Genbaku Dome, the skeletal ruins directly beneath the bomb, was debated furiously. Many survivors wanted it demolished. It stayed, and that decision changed everything. That single image became the most recognizable symbol of nuclear destruction on Earth. Today, 1.7 million people visit Hiroshima annually. Heads of state make pilgrimages. School children from every country stand where the temperature once reached the surface of the sun. The city that was erased in 1 second is now impossible to forget. February 1945. British and American forces firebombed Dresden over 2 nights. 25,000 people died. One of Europe's most beautiful Baroque cities, gone. After German reunification, Dresden decided to rebuild the Frauenkirche Cathedral, stone by stone, from the original blueprints. A 13-year project. Among the largest donors? British and American organizations. The countries that destroyed it helped rebuild it. But the detail nobody forgets. The Golden Cross, now sitting at the very top of the rebuilt cathedral, was donated by Alan Smith, the son of a British RAF pilot who flew bombing raids over Dresden in 1945. His father helped bring it down. His son put the cross back on top. That is not reconstruction. That is what reconciliation actually looks like. 1996, the longest siege of a capital city in modern warfare. Mortar shells raining into markets, schools, and funeral processions for nearly 4 years. When the siege ended, Sarajevo faced the same question every city faces. What do you do with the scars? Sarajevo's answer was quietly brilliant. The mortar craters in the pavement, hundreds of them, were filled with red resin. Not repaired, not removed. Filled with red. These are the Sarajevo roses. Permanent, visible, impossible to ignore. Tourists walk over them every day, and when someone explains what that red mark in the stone actually is, the city becomes something different. Not a war zone you visit, a classroom you walk through. October 1944. After crushing the Warsaw Uprising, Nazi Germany made a decision that was less military than philosophical. They decided to erase Warsaw from history. Engineers moved through the city systematically, detonating, burning, destroying. By January 1945, 85% of Warsaw was rubble. What happened next is one of the most defiant acts of reconstruction in human history. Polish architects rebuilt Warsaw's entire Old Town using 18th century paintings as blueprints, not approximations. Precise recreations, streets, facades, archways, from paintings. UNESCO declared the rebuilt Old Town a World Heritage Site in 1980, as a site of reconstruction rather than original survival. The attempt to erase Warsaw made it permanently unforgettable. So why does this pattern keep repeating across every generation? 5 reasons. And they work together. 1. Human beings need meaning. Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, spent his career proving this. People can survive almost any suffering if they can find a reason for it. Cities work the same way. A city destroyed randomly cannot heal. A city destroyed so the world would never forget has a mission. 2. Destruction creates identity. Before the war, Hiroshima was a mid-sized port city. Before the war, Coventry was an ordinary English town. The war gave these cities a global identity they could never have achieved any other way. That identity becomes the foundation of everything that follows. 3. International guilt brings investment. The countries that cause destruction tend to eventually invest in repairing it. American investment in post-war Japan. British donations to Dresden. German acknowledgement of Warsaw. Guilt, when it finally arrives, is economically productive for those who receive it. 4. Dark tourism is real. Human beings travel to places where extreme things happened. Auschwitz, Chernobyl, Ground Zero. Not because they are morbid, but because they are searching for something comfortable places cannot provide. A confrontation with reality. Proof that survival is possible. 5. Suffering creates moral authority. When Hiroshima calls for nuclear disarmament, the world listens in a way it simply would not if Washington or London made the same call. Suffering, transformed into testimony, becomes the most powerful argument available. Each one is now impossible to forget. They kept the ruins. They filled the craters with red. They rebuilt from paintings. They let the dome stand. Because somewhere in human nature there is an understanding older than any government. The most important thing is not to pretend it didn't happen. The most important thing is to make sure it is never forgotten. Weapons end wars, but it is people who decide what the ending means. If this made you think, share it. See you next time.